Hi folks, this is Jack Turner, and welcome to my character rig demonstration.
Here we have the basic scene that I'm providing, and in a few minutes I'm going to show you how the whole thing works. When you first open the scene, gobytail.ma, right, you're going to see what you see on the screen now. A bunch of gray-brown lizard geometry, very crude, simply as a placeholder here, and then this is a more modeled out tail. And then here we have three fundamental controllers. One is the body root controller, another is the world root controller, and last, and most important for this demonstration, the tail effector controller. Okay? Now, the tail effector controller, I'm going to change the camera position now. The tail effector allows you to move the direction of the tail. It's got an aim constraint on all skeletons. Okay? It is keyable. Okay. The next thing you'll notice is the set of layers here. This setup is to facilitate the FK-IK binding blend. That is to say, this rig has both forward and reverse kinematic controllers. Let's take a look at them. Firstly, we have the forward kinematic controllers. Very simple. Each one represents a bone, and each one can be parented to the other. And I can move it up and down. And you will notice, by the way, that the tail doesn't quite move along with it. This is because the tail, by default, is set half to follow the forward K and half to follow the IK. This can be changed in the GUI, which I'll show later. The next thing, okay, so I'm going to turn off the FK controllers. The next thing we're going to look at are the IK controllers. The IK controllers control a spline IK. Okay. Each one of these controllers represents a CV point on a NURBS curve, and you can move them back and forth. Now again, I wish to emphasize, the tail doesn't move exactly with the controller because it is set halfway between FK and IK. Under most circumstances, you should see either the IK or the FK. On rare circumstances, you might want to set both controllers visible. Now that we've gone over the basic anatomy of the scene, it is time to go into the graphical user interface. To get the graphical user interface started, click on the toolbar here, and the dragontail GUI will appear. The dragontail GUI consists of three basic components: a basic tail control slider panel, layer visibility panel, and key bound bones button. This part especially is important for reasons which I will explain later. Now, the IK blend slider is the most crucial in the scene. It drives the set-driven key that controls whether or not the skeleton listens to the FK skeleton or the IK skeleton. All right? So, I'm going to set it to FK, and now I'm going to make my FK controllers visible. All right? And we should see that the tail follows the GUI precisely. Okay. Now, I'm going to slide it all the way to IK, turn off FK controllers, turn on IK controllers, and here we see that the tail follows the IK skeleton exactly. Okay. Now, there are a couple of little tricks I added into the GUI. I did a little research on the tail whipping of bearded dragons in general and found out that it wasn't a simple um, pulling of one tendon to get the tail to turn. It is, in fact, a compartmentalized process of several or almost every vertebra having a little muscle group that makes the whole thing turn. And I wanted to simulate that with this rig. So I'm going to do that through the FK controllers. So I'm going to turn off IK, turn on the FK controllers. Okay, make sure that my slider's all the way into FK. All right. I then move down into the tail whipping. There we go. Fairly close, I think, to how a bearded dragon whips its tail. This one controls the side to side, and the bottom one controls the up and down, especially when running. I've noticed that bearded dragons, while they run, hold their tails up. Finally, one of the things we're going to be looking at is the key tail button under the key bound bones segment of the GUI. This is important because it applies all the motions of the controllers and bakes it as a set of absolute keyframes onto the bones that are bound to geometry. Why do we want to do this?
Although the ubiquitous FBX format has evolved to support things like constraints and even blend shapes, a very complex rig can bog some commercial and proprietary game engines down, not mentioning any names. So a nice simple set of keyframe bones can often result in a more robust animation set.
So we animate with the FK and IK skeletons and then bake that motion into the tail. Okay, this is how you would do that. Let's say, for example, we want the tail to move in a wiggly, squiggly, spline IK sort of way. We activate the IK controllers, all right? Then we make sure that we're all the way over into IK territory, right? 1.0, which means it is fully IK, all right? And now we select an IK handle and we move it like this, and we select another IK handle and we move it like that, and we have a nice S shape going on. See that? Nice S. All right. And then, once we're satisfied, we hit key tail. Okay? Now, what does that do? What it does, like I said, is to simply transfer the motion of the controllers onto the bound skeleton. All right? So now, if we were to turn off the IK controllers, and we even go over here and do something we're not usually going to do, and turn off the tail geometry, and instead turn on the bound skeleton, you'll see that each skeleton has its translation and rotation keyframed. So now we have a nice set of keyframes to describe this cool S. This concludes the demonstration of the dragontail rig.
I'd like to thank my viewers for requesting this demonstration. I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you find the rig and this tutorial useful.